On Fridays, we read a book, we discuss, and so far we had been reading this amazing book on habits by James Clear. So we had been reading Atomic Habits, and today we will actually complete that discussion, and we will kickstart with another book which has been it's one of the best books that people say is in the area of finance, and our community members have already started to go through some of the pages and have loved it so far. So we're excited to read this book together, and the title of the book is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and it's the second time we're actually reading this book. So I just want to take a moment and welcome everyone. Lavina, Richa, Raki, Meryl, Sneha, warm welcome everybody. So let's begin by really wrapping up automatic habits. I was going to say, yes, the effort with atomic habits is to have these habits become automatic, but how much of them have become automatic, we'll see. So yes, inviting everybody to share what's your experience been from reading Atomic Habits, anything that any area where you brought a transformation in, and what is next with regards to habit building. Go ahead.
I've managed to write every day and also read. Thanks to you, Sheetal, for encouraging me to read every day. Unfortunately, I don't read Atomic Habits every day, but I do end up reading something or other. So I've picked up a few, I think, skills like, how you can make the environment a little more, what would I say, convivial. So it's suited to what you want to do. For example, having the books right next to me, or having my writing journal right next to me, having the yoga mat next to the bed where I want to do my yoga, for example. So such kind of things. And also when we read about accountability patterns, I mean, we started our activity before that. But just, I think each time we read something like this, like even habit stacking, I remember we all, put down in the group, okay, I've finished this, I finished that. So it's a great motivation to having others around to whom you're accountable.
Thank you so much, Richa. Inviting others to share. How was your time with Atomic Habits?
It's been pretty good. Actually, I finished the book like 2-3 weeks back because I've been reading. I read like at least 30 to 45 minutes just dedicated to the online book club books besides other books. So it's really helped me become very, very disciplined, I think. Because I think it really delves into the logic and breaks everything down so systematically and so logically, right? And there are so many little tips and tricks which have really helped. Like a lot of it is a bit tactical, but it does work. And like Richa said, the idea which Kaveri had suggested of writing down the habits every day, giving a sort of a report. Initially, I was thinking it would just be about like a tick mark, but then I felt like writing a bit more than just the tick mark, because that seems to me very quantitative in nature. So that was like a pretty good experience as well. And I've already halfway through the next book, so I'm super excited to discuss that. That's been my experience so far.
Yay, thank you so much.
Meryl is a front bencher, I think.
Meryl is a front bencher.
Yes, now I am. Not so much in school or college.
Yeah. So I want to pause here and also welcome Usha, Sonika, Chitra, Renu, Rashmi, Ashvita, who have joined us for the discussion. If you can switch on your videos, please do, and do. If your environment allows, then I encourage you to participate, because that's when I think you create more value for your lives, right? I have, of course, at the beginning of Atomic Habits, I had been going on and on about my health and not doing enough in that area, especially ever since lockdown. And I think it's the first time since then that I have become that I've been able to be consistent, thanks to the book reading, thanks to the club, thanks for all the discussions and ideas we brought in, and we also took on implementing rather than simply reading, right? And one thing that struck me was, a couple of days ago, I was chatting with someone who had participated in being one of the accountability partners, and in sharing the activities that we are going to take on. And then she had messaged that, okay, I'm not able to keep up because a lot of things are happening. Hence, I wouldn't want to participate, right? That I don't think I can really do what I want to do at this stage. And in our conversation, it struck me that one of the identities, and thanks to Atomic Habits, now I'm looking at, okay, what is it that you can do? The easiest thing that you can do, even if it's not the entire thing. For example, if I said I want to work out for 30 minutes a day, but on that particular day, if I have not been able to work out for 30 minutes because I woke up late, for example, but can I show up for 3 minutes or a minute, right? Because the other identity that we struggle with in building is one of where I am consistent. We are very quick to say, we pick up something and then say that I am not consistent with this, whether it's reading or anything. And then, so in that moment, I learned, it struck me that the identity that I could help this woman build is one where she is consistent. And in that, even if you do not work out or wake up early, as whatever your plan had been, but you woke up, let's say, at 7 instead of 6:30, but consistently reporting, okay, I woke up today at 7, instead of consistently reporting only when perfect. I said I will wake up at 6:30 and I woke up at 6:30, and that's worthy of being reported. No, the journey is that there will be these moments, so so that was quite something for me. And to come really at a point when we are finishing the book is so, I'm so grateful that she communicated. And then and ever since then she has continued to track and report, and so that's, I think, my biggest takeaway, that being consistent, and what is the tiniest of thing we can do within what we're trying to build, and in that, building this identity of somebody who takes on something and is consistent. Because I think many times we leave things because, oh, I missed out a day or the other day, or it's not been perfect. So that was great for me. And of course, I think in the recent past, I have also reported how uh, I think I keep testing, have I become perfect or not? So I try keeping the phone beside me while I should be keeping it on my table, and then I snooze. So yeah, so a lot of different strategies I could bring in, and I'm so happy to have gotten this far. And I had also said that I will read Atomic Habits throughout this year. So from last evening today, I've started reading this book again. Although my initial experience was, "Arey yaar, ye to pad liya hai, I might be bored," has been the experience of day one of rereading. And some of you, I think, had said that you would want to reread with me. Please, if you're looking for partners in that, then I am here. Okay, I'm doing it all over again. Yes. So thank you so much. So please, who would like to share?
Sheetal, I just
Hi.
want to add, sorry. Go on, Rakhi, go on.
No, you carry on. Okay, let me speak. Uh, so yesterday I just finished this chapter, this whole book, and my takeaways from this book, from Atomic Habit, is the first
Yeah, one
one.
second.
It clearly explained us that how to define our outcome or habit, how to build a habit. For example, like you have to very much specific. Like tomorrow, I have to wake up by 6 o'clock. Uh, in room, whichever room you want to prefer, like for example, this is my room, so I want to wake up tomorrow at 6 o'clock in this room, and right after waking up I will have a cup of tea or water, and then I will jump to yoga mat and do a exercise. So this is something that I'm clearly defining the location, timing, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to do. So it is giving more and more clarity that what's the next step. So this chapter, this book has given explained very nicely that define your outcome, define your habit, at what you want to do. First thing, second thing is different habit attitudes. It has explained, for example, like. Keep this phone away, stay away from all the distractions. This is the second thing. Like for example, if you are doing something and that time mobile is on, Facebook is on, WhatsApp is on, and you're trying to focus on something, so it is not common, it is not easy. So either you keep your distraction away from you, or just for either focus on your distraction or focus on the activity that you want to do. So this is the second learning, for stay away from the distraction. Third one, I learned that if you want to begin your activity or the habit or build your habit, so the first thing you can do is keep your mobile away from the bed you are waking up, because the moment alarm will ring, so that time it will force you to wake up. Else what we do, if mobile is beside us, then what we do, we just off it and again we go and sleep. So the other thing we can do is keep your mobile or keep your water bottle away from your bed, so that it will push you hard to wake up. So this is another alternative. Then dipotomic hormone. It was in one of the chapter, that hormone, it has mentioned that. Do a habit with a happy hormone, which releases, produces happy hormones. For example, like there are number of exercises, there are number of activities, but do something that makes you happy. For example, skipping makes me happy, so what I will do is I will keep doing skipping, because it generates a happy hormone in me, and it will push me to do it again and again without any motivation, without any pressure, without any focus. So do something that give you energy, or that push you, that makes you happy doing something, that okay, you can repeat it again and again. So these thing. And one more habit, what I learned from this book is explanation. Then this one, yeah, surrounding. Even you can we can keep our surrounding in a way that motivate us. For example, like different places we can keep a water bottle, or this a tracksuit, that you are waking up, tracksuit is there, or shoes is just beside your bed, or yoga mat is there. So we need to create a surrounding. Every time we cannot be dependent on other people or on social media or the community or the club. So what we can do is just create your own environment in a way that it pushes you, that tomorrow you have to do certain activity or certain habit you have to follow. So by this, we will be more consistent, we'll be more happy, and without any motivation, we will be able to follow certain habits throughout the year, or whatever you want to focus on at a certain period of time. So these are my takeaways. That I'm keep reminding myself that this is something you have to do. Keep mobile out, stay away from the distraction, keep a water bottle. It will not let you to sleep again and again, or do something that produces happy hormones, or just have a very certain habit that you feel that you are comfortable with to begin with. Then slowly, once you are able to achieve one habit, at least for a week, then stacking up with more and more habits, then it will inculcate good habits, and you will be to the next level, definitely in 2022. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Someone else was about to share? Who would like to share?
I was just going to add on what you were saying, Sheetal, about your conversation with this woman, you know. So earlier, one of my tasks or the habit that I wanted to form was to either walk or do some sort of dance workout every day. Now, since the time I've started yoga, I'm like, kar to rahi hu thrice a week. You know, I've gotten a little lazy. So the thing is, I was just telling myself yesterday that the day I don't have yoga, at the same time slot, 8:30, I can do a little workout or a little walk. Why am I not doing it? Right? If the goal is to do a small workout, doesn't mean if I do 3 days a week, that's enough. So again, the whole point of being consistent in what you do, it doesn't have to be a 1 hour workout. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute workout. It can be even a 15, 10-minute workout. But the point is to show up and build that identity.
Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. So anybody who's looking forward to reading this book again? Okay,
Yes.
Richa is. Anyone else who has not probably not read Atomic Habits and would like to pick it up because you want to pick up a certain habit? Okay, Sonika, got it. Okay, Ashmita, awesome.
Sheetal, just one thing at the end of the book, you know how it mentions that there are certain habits that you will be better at because you're genetically or in terms of your personality, you're better suited to them. So you shouldn't always take on habits which are going to be so difficult for you that you're going to be completely demotivated and you think you're a failure, you know. So that was something that really it made a lot of sense to me because sometimes we say, like, for example, I remember when we were reading Habit Stacking, I think, and I decided to read one word from the English dictionary every day. And I mean, English, ठीक है, पढ़ लिया, I use it every day, but I have no interest in reading one word and learning its meaning every day. I'd rather do something in French, you know. So that was a difficult habit for me. So I let it go after a few days. And then I was like, oh, why did I let it go? So then this chapter really spoke to me that, you know, pick up things that you're going to enjoy and that you're good at, rather, and then make them your strength.
Yes, he also in the book is mentioned, right, how deliberately he's put some of the topics right at the end, you know, things we would maybe begin from, but he's put them right at the end. And uh, one of the messages from this book, which I had also shared in the group, you know, that the greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom. You know, that's been I think one of the biggest takeaway as well. Another takeaway, rather, we get bored with habits because they stop delighting us and the outcome becomes expected. And as our habits become ordinary, we start derailing our progress to seek novelty. Perhaps this is why we get caught up in a never ending cycle, jumping from one workout to the next, one diet to the next, one business idea to the next. And as soon as we experience the slightest dip in motivation, we begin seeking a new strategy, even if the old one was still working. As Machiavelli noted, men desire novelty to such an extent that those who are doing well wish for a change as much as those who are doing badly. And it reminds me of my struggle with how I wouldn't want to follow the same yoga video. And I used to spend a lot of time going through, okay, which is the other video that I want to follow, you know. And this time I made it really easy, and making it easy has been another great takeaway this time. I made it easy so that there is no decision fatigue. Another takeaway from the book. And then I decided this is the exercise I want to do. Now I have, of course, stacked it with different forms of, but I repeat the same thing. You know, I don't waste time going through what video I want to follow. I have not gotten into that this time. So just deciding already, making it easy has been one of the other things that's really supported me through this journey. So yeah. So for everybody who said that you want to read Atomic Habits, because I continue to read it, I think I will continue to, it will be my nighttime read. So we continue to share. It's okay even if we are on different book now and we are picking up something else. It's a book club, so we can keep sharing, but just mention which book it's from, so it's easy for everybody else to follow and share more insights on those. All right. Okay, so are we ready then to read the new book? So inviting our readers who would like to go first and read. I will share the screen and project the book. In the meantime, please decide who would like to read a few pages, and we'll pause and discuss. Should we start right from the introduction? The greatest show on earth. Okay. Who's volunteering to read?
I can do it.
All right. Thank you, Meryl. And Rich has also volunteered. So go ahead. Thank you, Meryl.
All right. I spent my college years working as a valet at a nice hotel in Los Angeles. One frequent guest was a technology executive. He was a genius, having designed and patented a key component in Wi-Fi routers in his 20s. He had started and sold several companies. He was wildly successful. He also had a relationship with money I describe as a mix of insecurity and childish stupidity. He carried a stack of $100 bills, several inches thick. He showed it to everyone who wanted to see it and many who didn't. He bragged openly and loudly about his wealth, often while drunk and always apropos of nothing. One day, he handed one of my colleagues several $1,000s of cash and said, "Go to the jewelry store down the street and get me a few $1,000 gold coins." An hour later, gold coins in hand, the tech executive and his buddies gathered around by a dock overlooking the Pacific Ocean. They then proceeded to throw the coins into the sea, skipping them like rocks, cackling as they argued whose went furthest, just for fun. Days later, he shattered a lamp in the hotel's restaurant. A manager told him it was a $500 lamp and he'd have to replace it. "You want $500? The executive asked incredulously, while pulling a brick of cash from his pocket and handing it to the manager. "Here's $5,000. Now get out of my face and don't ever insult me like this again." You may wonder how long this behavior could last, and the answer was not long. I learned years later that he went broke. The premise of this book is that doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. And behavior is hard to teach, even to really smart people. A genius who loses control of their emotions can be a financial disaster. The opposite is also true. Ordinary folks with no financial education can be wealthy if they have a handful of behavioral skills that have nothing to do with formal measures of intelligence. My favorite Wikipedia entry begins. Ronald James Reed was an American philanthropist, investor, janitor, and gas station attendant. Ronald Reed was born in rural Vermont. He was the first person in his family to graduate high school, made all the more impressive by the fact that he hitchhiked to campus each day. For those who knew Ronald Reed, there wasn't much else worth mentioning. His life was about as low-key as they come. Reed fixed cars at a gas station for 25 years and swept floors at JCPenney for 17 years. He bought a two-bedroom house for $12,000 at age 38 and lived there for the rest of his life. He was widowed at age 50 and never remarried. A friend recalled that his main hobby was chopping firewood. Reed died in 2014, age 92, which is when the humble rural janitor made international headlines. Okay, 2,813,503 Americans died in 2014. Fewer than 4,000 of them had a net worth of over 8 million when they passed away. Ronald Read was one of them. In his will, the former janitor left $2 million to his stepkids and more than $6 million to his local hospital and library. Those who knew Read were baffled. Where did he get all that money? It turned out there was no secret. There was no lottery to win and no inheritance. Reed saved what little he could and invested it in blue chip stocks. Then he waited for decades on end as tiny savings compounded into more than $8 million. That's it, from janitor to philanthropist. A few months before Ronald Read died, another man named Richard was in the news. Richard Fusconi was everything Ronald Read was not. A Harvard-educated Merrill Lynch executive with an MBA, Fusconi had such a successful career in finance that he retired in his 40s to become a philanthropist. Former Merrill CEO David Komansky praised Fusconi's business-savvy leadership skills, sound judgment, and personal integrity. Crain's Business magazine once included him in 40 under 40 list of successful business people. But then, like the gold coin skipping tech executive, everything fell apart. In the mid-2000s, Fusconi borrowed heavily to expand an 18,000 square foot home in Greenwich, Connecticut, that had 11 bathrooms, 2 elevators, 2 pools, 7 garages, and cost more than $90,000 a month to maintain. Then the 2008 financial crisis hit. The crisis hurt virtually everyone's finances. It apparently turned Fusconi's into dust. High debt and illiquid assets left him bankrupt. I currently have no income, he allegedly told a bankruptcy judge in 2008. First, his Palm Beach house was foreclosed. In 2014, it was the Greenwich Mansion's turn. 5 months before Ronald Read left his fortune to charity, Richard Fusconi's home, where guests recalled the thrill of dining and dancing atop a see-through covering on the home's indoor swimming pool, was sold in a foreclosure auction for 75% less than an insurance company figured it was worth. Ronald Read was patient. Richard Fusconi was greedy. That's all it took to eclipse the massive education and experience gap between the two. The lesson here is not to be more like Ronald and less like Richard, though that's not bad advice. The fascinating thing about these stories is how unique they are to finance. In what other industry does someone with no college degree, no training, no background, no formal experience, and no connections massively outperform someone with the best education, the best training, and the best connections? I struggle to think of any. It is impossible to think of a story about Ronald Read performing a heart transplant better than a Harvard-trained surgeon or designing a skyscraper superior to the best-trained architects. There will never be a story of a janitor outperforming the world's top nuclear engineers. But these stories do happen in investing. The fact that Ronald Read can coexist with Richard Fusconi has 2 explanations. One, financial outcomes are driven by luck, independent of intelligence and effort. That's true to some extent, and this book will discuss it in further detail. Or 2, and I think more common, that financial success is not a hard science. It's a soft skill where how you behave is more important than what you know. I call this soft skill the psychology of money. The aim of this book is to use short stories to convince you that soft skills are more important than the technical side of money. I'll do this in a way that will help everyone, from Read to Fusconi and everyone in between, make better financial decisions. These soft skills are, I've come to realize, greatly underappreciated. Finance is overwhelmingly taught as a math-based field where you put data into a formula and the formula tells you what to do, and it's assumed that you'll just go do it. This is true in personal finance, where you're told to have a 6-month emergency fund and save 10% of your salary. It's true in investing, where we know the exact historical correlations between interest rates and valuations. And it's true in corporate finance, where CFOs can measure the precise cost of capital. It's not that any of these things are bad or wrong. It's that knowing what to do tells you nothing about what happens in your head when you try to do it. Two topics impact everyone, whether you are interested in them or not: health and money. The healthcare industry is a triumph of modern science with rising life expectancy across the world. Scientific discoveries have replaced doctors' old ideas about how the human body works, and virtually everyone is healthier because of it. The money industry, investing, personal finance, business planning, is another story. Finance has scooped up the smartest minds coming from top universities over the last 2 decades. Financial engineering was the most popular major in Princeton's School of Engineering a decade ago. Is there any evidence that it has made us better investors? I have seen none. Through collective trial and error over the years, we learned how to become better farmers, skilled plumbers, and advanced chemists. But has this trial and error taught us to become better with our personal finances? Are we less likely to bury ourselves in debt, more likely to save for a rainy day, prepare for retirement, have realistic views about what money does and doesn't do to our happiness? I've seen no compelling evidence. Most of the reason why I believe is that we think about and are taught about money in ways that are too much like physics, with rules and laws, and not enough like psychology, with emotions and nuance. And that to me is as fascinating as it is important. Money is everywhere, it affects all of us and confuses most of us. Everyone thinks about it a little differently. It offers lessons on things that apply to many areas of life, like risk, confidence, and happiness. Few topics offer a more powerful magnifying lens that helps explain why people behave the way they do than money. It is one of the greatest shows on earth. My own appreciation for the psychology of money is shaped by more than a decade of writing on the topic. I began writing about finance in early 2008. It was the dawn of a financial crisis and the worst recession in 80 years. To write about what was happening, I wanted to figure out what was happening. But the first thing I learned after the financial crisis was that no one could accurately explain what happened or why it happened, let alone what should be done about it. For every good explanation, there was an equally convincing rebuttal. Should I continue, Sheeta?
Let's pause and yeah, let's share what are you getting? How are you becoming more prepared for the greatest show on earth?
Meryl was reading and suddenly this whole book came back to me in a flash.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes. What else came to me? I could, some of the myths around money, it's very rare. I think we hear conversations around behavior and money, you know. So yeah, I think some myths about money were coming to me. Yeah, what else?
I really like the line which is mentioned about how someone with no college degree, no experience, nothing can do much better than someone who has all of that. It's not only to do with documents or papers or degrees. It's to do with that. That was quite interesting.
Then I was also looking at, where I could think of this certain relative I know, and he has shared how in finance we see this happening, but not so much in other fields. I think entrepreneurship is another area where education background may not matter so much, or at least, to get to a certain level. I think, a certain kind of person you are would determine whether or not you're able to sustain the business you begin. And of course, there are always skills that we can enhance to take the business to the next level. But that was another area I could think of.
I think for me, like the book also it came at the good time because the markets have been so like choppy, right? And as a newer investor in the stock markets and all that, there is a sense of anxiety or apprehension when things are not doing so well. But this book really convinces you. It really gives you a good idea of how patience and long-term thinking and like just that thing of being regular and not looking for quick gratification is really the recipe to create wealth and well, not be stupid with one's money, right? Like the stories that are there of people who were so smart and made so much money, they were not able to sustain their wealth, right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very educational, I feel, very, very reassuring as well.
Thank you guys for sharing. It also reminded me of, this person I was speaking to today, and then she was sharing how her reason for connecting with us is because she had invested in the past, and how many of our women come in, they have either never invested or they had done it and maybe also experienced loss, right? And then she said that some 2 years ago or so, she said, I have invested in crypto, and then I lost money, and then it made it made me feel like, okay, maybe in the recent time the crypto market has come down, and hence she's talking about some recent experience. But then she said 2 years ago or so, and then I was like, oh, everybody who invested much earlier, they also made money, in the crypto market, because it's of course so volatile. So, but as we were reading, how much of emotions play such a big role, how quick we are able to respond to the market, take our money out or jump in, so it will be really fascinating to be more aware of, as the market is going up and down. As I read this, I'm looking at also practical implementations on what are my emotional swings like. So that's what's coming to me.
Wow. So sure, go ahead.
Go ahead, Hira. And I do invite Sonika, Usha, Yadu is joined as, Chitra, Ashmita, Preeti also to share, Lavina. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So wonderful to come back. And I want to definitely, my resolution of reading more this year has gotten delayed by another month, but I'm so glad I'm catching up. Yeah. Thanks to all of you for being here, holding the fort. So something that really connected with me today is from this portion, where it's talking about that we're being taught money in ways that are too much like physics, rules and laws, and not enough like psychology with emotions and nuance. And trust me, as soon as we take on to our financial education journey, I'm sure each one of us have gone through our own ride of acknowledging our own emotions of what we've gone, when we started working on our net worth sheet, started building our plans, not believing and trusting that if it's possible. So many emotions. So I truly feel this is so wonderful. And as Sheetal touched it from the other side, that, hey, the market's ups and downs are also kind of get us to ride on our emotions. So how amazing it is to learn the art of money, not only from the structures, but also how it's impacting us emotionally. So I'm sure this book, once again, going over this will be an interesting journey. Yeah.
Just
Thank
another
you,
thing where the book is talking about don't be greedy. So I'm reminded of, I don't remember which book we read it in, but the difference between looking rich and being wealthy.
Millionaire Next Door. Perhaps that's the book. Okay, so shall we continue reading then? Okay, so Richa, I invite you to read. And here's the book. Yeah.
Where should I start from?
Let's go from here.
Engineers can determine the cause of a bridge collapse because there's agreement that if a certain amount of force is applied to a certain area, that area will break. Physics isn't controversial. It's guided by laws. Finance is different. It's guided by people's behavior. And how I behave might make sense to me, but look crazy to you. The more I studied and wrote about the financial crisis, the more I realized that you could understand it better through the lenses of psychology and history, not finance. To grasp why people bury themselves in debt, you don't need to study interest rates. You need to study the history of greed, insecurity, and optimism. To get why investors sell out at the bottom of a bear market, you don't need to study the math of expected future returns. You need to think about the agony of looking at your family and wondering if your investments are imperiling their future. I love Voltaire's observation that history never repeats itself, man always does. It applies so well to how we behave with money. In 2018, I wrote a report outlining 20 of the most important flaws, biases, and causes of bad behavior I've seen affect people when dealing with money. It was called The Psychology of Money, and over 1 million people have read it. This book is a deeper dive into the topic. Some short passages from the report appear unaltered in this book. When you're holding, what you're holding is 20 chapters, each describing what I consider to be the most important and often counterintuitive features of the psychology of money. The chapters revolve around a common theme, but exist on their own and can be read independently. It's not a long book. You're welcome. Most readers don't finish the books they begin because most single topics don't require 300 pages of explanation. I'd rather make 20 short points you finish than one long one you give up on. On we go. Okay, so the first point is no one's crazy. Your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.00001% of what's happened in the world, but maybe 80% of how you think the world works. Absolutely. Let me tell you about a problem. It might make you feel better about what you do with your money and less judgmental about what other people do with it. People do crazy things with money, but no one is crazy. Here's the thing, people from different generations, raised by different parents who earned different incomes and held different values in different parts of the world, born in different economies, experiencing different job markets with different incentives and different degrees of luck, learn very different lessons. Everyone has their own unique experience with how the world works. And what you've experienced is more compelling than what you learn secondhand. So all of us, you, me, everyone, go through life anchored to a set of views about how money works that vary wildly from person to person. What seems crazy to you might make sense to me. The person who grew up in poverty thinks about risk and reward in ways the child of a wealthy banker cannot fathom if he tried. The person who grew up when inflation was high experienced something the person who grew up with stable prices never had to. The stockbroker who lost everything during the Great Depression experienced something the tech worker basking in the glory of the late 1990s can't imagine. The Australian who hasn't seen a recession in 30 years has experienced something No American ever has. On and on. The list of experiences is endless. You know stuff about money that I don't, and vice versa. You go through life with different beliefs, goals, and forecasts than I do. That's not because one of us is smarter than the other or has better information. It's because we've had different lives shaped by different and equally persuasive experiences. Your personal experiences with money may make up maybe 0.00001% of what's happened in the world, but maybe 80% of how you think the world works. So, equally smart people can disagree about how and why recessions happen, how you should invest your money, what you should prioritize, how much risk you should take, and so on. In his book on 1930s America, Frederick Lewis Allen wrote that the Great Depression marked millions of Americans inwardly for the rest of their lives. But there was a range of experiences. 25 years later, as he was running for president, John F. Kennedy was asked by a reporter what he remembered from the Depression. He remarked, "I have no first hand knowledge of the Depression. My family had one of the great fortunes of the world, and it was more than ever then. We had bigger houses, more servants, we traveled more. About the only thing that I saw directly was when my father hired some extra gardeners just to give them a job so that they could eat. I really did not learn about the Depression until I read about it at Harvard." This was a major point in the 1960 election. How people thought, could someone with no understanding of the biggest economic story of the last generation be put in charge of the economy? It was in many ways overcome only by JFK's experience in World War II. That was the other most widespread emotional experience of the previous generation, and something his primary opponent, Hubert Humphrey, didn't have. The challenge for us is that no amount of studying or open mindedness can genuinely recreate the power of fear and uncertainty. I can read about what it was like to lose everything during the Great Depression, but I don't have the emotional scars of those who have actually experienced it. And the person who lived through it can't fathom why someone like me could come across as complacent about things like owning stocks. We see the world through a different lens. Spreadsheets can model the historic frequency of big stock market declines, but they can't model the feeling of coming home, looking at your kids, and wondering if you've made a mistake that will impact their lives. Studying history makes you feel like you understand something. But until you've lived through it and personally felt its consequences, you may not understand it enough to change your behavior. We all think that we know how the world works, but we've only experienced a tiny sliver of it. As investor Michael Batnick says, some lessons have to be experienced before they can be understood. We are all victims in different ways to that truth. In 2006, economists Ulrich Malmendier and Stephen Nagel from the National Bureau of Economic Research dug through 50 years of the survey of consumer finances, a detailed look at what Americans do with their money. In theory, people should make investment decisions based on their goals and the characteristics of the investment options available to them at the time. But that's not what people do. The economists found that people's lifetime investment decisions are heavily anchored to the experiences those investors had in their own generation, especially experiences early in their adult life. If you grew up when inflation was high, you invested less of your money in bonds later in life compared to those who grew up when inflation was low. If you happened to grow up when the stock market was strong, you invested more of your money in stocks later in life compared to those who grew up when stocks were weak. The Economist wrote, "Our findings suggest that individual investors' willingness to bear risk depends on personal history, not intelligence or education or sophistication, just the dumb luck of when and where you were born." The Financial Times interviewed Bill Gross, the famed bond manager, in 2019. Gross admits that he would probably not be where he is today if he had been born a decade earlier or later, the piece said. Ross's career coincided almost perfectly with the generational collapse in interest rate that gave bond prices a tailwind. That kind of thing doesn't just affect the opportunities you come across, it affects what you think about these opportunities when they are presented to you. To Gross, bonds were wealth generating machines. To his father's generation, who grew up with and endured higher inflation, they might be seen as wealth incinerators. The differences in how people have experienced money are not small. Even among those you might think are pretty similar. Take stocks. If you were born in 1970, the S&P 500 increased almost tenfold, adjusted for inflation during your teens and 20s. That's an amazing return. If you were born in 1950, the market went literally nowhere in your teens and 20s, adjusted for inflation. Two groups of people, separated by chance of their birth year, go through life with a completely different view on how the stock market works.
Shall we pause here?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Richa, for reading. All right. So what are we getting from this first chapter? No one's crazy. I find it very hard to, even when the first time, I would find it very hard to share, whatever I experienced while reading this book. It's not so easy to really articulate. So I'll try. I think I'll get better maybe this time. Go ahead, Richa.
No one's crazy, and history doesn't repeat itself. People do. So that's absolutely true. We keep repeating,
Yes, it makes me think of how, if I have gotten out of debt, doesn't mean that I would not get back into debt. We go back into the debt scenario again.
Also, how it mentions, which is so true, about how you make decisions based on what your early life experiences were. For example, not so much maybe now, but till very recently, I think our parents all wanted to only keep money in FDs because that's how they had grown up. That was their view of investments, And so that was what was passed down to me as well in terms of investing knowledge.
Yeah. I could think of that example as well, and then when he talked about luck, the sheer luck, the sheer turn of events which may have led me to get to Delhi, and have that one family member already know Women on Wealth. I am not from Delhi. I live here, but is this luck? Is what I'm thinking. So, yeah. Anybody else? What are you getting for yourself? I was also thinking how much imagining we need to do, to bring about the right set of behaviors that may help us build wealth. We have not gone to the future. We are not there yet, right? And here we are doing everything that we only know of the past. So yeah, so much of imagining that we have to do to build. So that's another thought I got while I was listening to you read. What about others? Inviting others. What are you taking back from being here today and listening to the discussion, the reading? Yeah. Sonika, Chitra, Ashmita. Okay, Sneha is saying, I had purchased the book long back, but couldn't read. I started reading from yesterday and not able to keep it down. Love the insights. Absolutely. Yes.
I think one thing I realized is that your luck gets better as you improve your behaviors, you know. Like somehow like the universe listens
Love
to
it.
that, I think, you know.
Mm. Wow,
The
that's
universe
something.
stands with people who have good habits and not disciplined. So the luck becomes better.
Then you can leverage on your luck better. You can optimize on your luck better. Otherwise, it's like it comes and then it disappears also very fast. No.
Sustainability, huh? It sustains itself.
Yes.
You can get lucky once, you can get lucky twice, but can you get luckier again and again?
Yeah.
Change, work on your behavior.
Hmm.
Join the book club. read books on money. Work on your money life.
I really like that, Meryl. That's in a way it's true. Like luck can assist you up to a point, but then if you don't make use of the luck, no, there's no use. Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks.
because if you were the luckiest one, then probably you would maybe be born with money and the intelligence of using that money. You will have both.
How amazing. So this point really connects with some lessons have to be experienced before they can be understood. We're all victims in different ways to that truth. And we've all had our own share. We've been victims, right? In the way our financial lives were. And the truth is that we're learning lessons from our experiences. And yeah, some lessons have to be experienced before they can be understood. So, right. So, which means I've had some experience now. I am learning by working on my money life, learning these lessons. So that's something which is just interesting. It's connected with me.
So does it mean that one has to go through the experience?
Some experience, right? Yeah, some experience.
Yeah,
I
it
think
makes me.
Yeah, I think you're really lucky if you don't have to go through a bad experience, but you still manage to have good habits. But there are other people who keep going through the same experiences and never getting out of it. And some of us, like, who've been through a very bad experience, and now we're like ready to never allow it to happen again, right?
Yeah.
Just more of how we respond, I think, to it in a way.
So how do we, Hira, you want to share something?
So I'm just trying to understand that. So we've learned the lesson and we've understood it now, and that's why perhaps we're more serious about taking charge of our money life with more seriousness. Yeah, because we've already come with some experience versus anyone else who may yet not have or may not be ready to take charge, possibly. Yeah. Yes, so true, Meryl. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I can think of a lot of, I'll talk only about women. I can think of a lot of women who don't have these talks and don't, think of investing or saving because, I don't know, maybe they're getting, let's say, a sort of pocket money or whatever from the spouse. And it's more than sufficient. And it's only unfortunately, when a bad experience hits in life that they realize that, oh, I wish I had, saved up or wish I had invested or kept some money away. So I hope no one has to go through it and we all start working on our money lives anyway.
Yeah, that's the intention. Right now, I think we were just chatting this morning as well that how there's a certain age group who naturally feel the need and come in, or we are able to influence them because we are working with women in this age group or similar challenges, but yet we have not come to a point where younger women, just like how we were ourselves, maybe just starting to work, starting to earn an income, we wouldn't really be able to think of far ahead and take charge already, right? So it's still not come to a point. So what, we've been around for 10 years, but it's still not come to a point where younger women still think of really far ahead and want to take charge. We have a few, but still not gotten to that point. So we're having that discussion. All right, so we'll continue to read and share. This is chapter 1. I don't even know how many pages there are in this one. What do you recommend? We read chapter 1, No One's Crazy, and then Luck and Risk. Two chapters, okay. This one chapter has many pages is what I see, or at least 10 maybe.
Actually,
All
not
right.
too long. The second chapter is from, yeah, you're right, 10 pages, 25 to 34, 9 pages, you're right.
Okay, so let's begin with the first 2 chapters. We read and share. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Have a happy weekend, and we will keep seeing each other in the community. Take care, and don't forget to keep posting, keep sharing. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.